Okay, we're started. Hey, what's going on, guys? So as you all know, Sergeant Seilaff. So I've been taking the week to kind of just gather questions from you guys to answer. How's it going? I just basically I went through all the questions. I decided the ones that I felt were not only good questions, but that were just worthwhile, And for those of you who didn't participate in it, feel free to participate in it maybe next week. What I'm trying to do is where you guys simply ask me the questions, that it can involve leadership questions, it can involve Army advice, guidance, even just the Army recruiting process, those types of questions. But anyway, so I have quite a few questions that I saved, and I'm just going to kind of go over them now. So let's see, the first one, how can I get Airborne on my contract? Well, it's actually really easy. So keep in mind, if you're trying to get Airborne, it does kind of reflect on what your score on the ASVAB is. The higher you score on your ASVAB, generally speaking, the better incentives you'll potentially get. If you can get a 50 to 70 score on the ASVAB, then there's a higher probability that you can get Airborne in your contract. As a matter of fact, if you were to get option 40, it's an even better deal because you can get Ranger School and Airborne. It all comes in your contract if you try to get that. But keep in mind, with that being said, that doesn't always mean it's available. So every physical year, which is in October for us, that's when all the jobs come pouring in, right? And so that means all the schools, all the bonuses, all the incentives, you're getting the highest probability for getting those by joining as soon as possible within the month of October and so on. And as you get further and further away from that year, the bonuses, the incentives, the jobs, they're all going away. So for example, let's say you're trying to get what's the most firefighter. Plenty of people want to go firefighter, right? And firefighter is already one of the most rare jobs I've ever seen. I've seen it like once or twice, maybe in my entire time recruiting. And that's with me waking up at 5 a.m. trying to get that job for said applicant, right? And, firefighter, if you're trying to get a job like that, the most opportune time is, in October, because that's when all the jobs come pouring in. And, sometimes we get them a little earlier. It can go between August all the way to the October time frame. But generally speaking, the highest probability will be October, right? And as I said, if you are you're scoring fairly high on the ASVAB, you're going to get a higher probability for that, and naturally speaking, that will also mean that you will also get more options for jobs. But it all comes in the contract. When you're choosing the job, you can look into the system and it'll show whether it comes with that set incentive or not. And someone kind of did a similar question. They asked about whether they can get Airborne while they go to school. It's possible, I wouldn't hold my breath for it because not only does the slot coincidentally need to be available, but you really need to be an all-star. You need to stand out. You need to be exceptional. And that's not going to be even a consideration if your drill sergeants aren't looking at you and thinking, man, this guy's a prodigy. This guy's the all-star. I see a lot of potential in him. If they're not seeing those types of things, then there's not a very high chance you'll get it. So what I advise when it comes to boot camp, what I always tell my soldiers, when it comes to boot camp itself, play it a little safe. Just try not to stand out too much. If you do, you're probably going to get picked on by the drill sergeants a little bit. But once AIT, Advanced Individual Training, starts, this is the time to be exceptional. Stand out. Volunteer for everything. Make sure you're known, because if the drill sergeants know you and you really represent yourself well, it's possible you can go to those schools. Airborne, Ranger, Sapper, these schools you can get. But like I said, you can't be mediocre. You have to be exceptional. But if you don't get it through boot camp, if you don't get it in your contract, It just kind of, it's the same thing. Once you go to your unit and you start doing your thing, just be proactive. Don't wait for your leaders to tell you to do things. Don't keep in mind, as a private, which you're going to probably be entering the Army as, you're going to volunteer for everything, for all the tasks. But I'm saying go beyond that. Try to get leadership positions, even if it's unofficial. And it does not matter if you fail in the leadership tasks that they give you, because you're at least proactive. You're at least proving that you care. And all leaders would love a soldier to volunteer for things, mess it up, and then volunteer for it again, because it means he's willing to learn from his mistakes, and all he cares about at the end of the day is grooming him, developing himself, right? And when you see someone like that, when you see that diamond in the rough, it makes that leader want to double down. It makes them want to invest time into you, because they're seeing the potential from you. It happens way too often to where, the soldier comes in, he goes to the unit, and he kind of just is invisible for the next 2 years. He doesn't really stand out. He just doesn't want to get in trouble, right? Get beyond that. Get beyond your mental limitations, because if you're really productively working towards development and you're ensuring your leadership knows that, they're going to put the time into you, because a lot of people, you can be 5 years in and you're still just floating. You're doing nothing. You're just doing what you're told. You're doing exactly what's asked of you. Go beyond that. If you want to be a leader, if you want to get schools and slots for great opportunities, volunteer for everything. Show a confidence that can give them confidence in you, and you're going to get those slots. You're going to get those cool schools. Okay, let's see. Trying to go to the Army, what should I do to prepare? It really depends on what your weaknesses are. The boring answer would just be, make sure you're good on your mathematics and English when it comes to the ASVAB. Make sure that you're in good enough physical shape, which if you're not, you can just simply do push-ups, sit-ups, and run. That's really all it takes. It's not that hard. But if you're asking the more in-depth question, it really is about trying to develop a mindset, to just be a better version of yourself. You should be continually studying and trying to improve your ASVAB score before you finally take that step to move forward and officially enlist. You should be going to, hopefully if your unit, your recruiter office has it, go to that future soldier training every single week you can, because they're there to develop you. They're there to train you. So if you can go off in the best odds, do it, But it really is just about not only making sure you're in physical shape, but also mental shape. And when you do eventually ship off to boot camp and you're doing that thing, for some it's going to be easy, for some it's going to be hard. Just remember that boot camp, it's a one of a kind experience, and it may be very hard for you. It's possible, right? Just remember that that's not the Army. That's not forever. You're facing the harshest conditions to prepare you for the real Army. Once you go to your unit and you go to real Army, it's going to be so much more normal. They're going to treat you like human beings, So just remember that's temporary in the moments of weakness where you're questioning whether you can handle it. What type of questions are on the ASVAB? Well, I'm not going to say questions, but I'll say the categories. The most important categories that you're going to see are general science, mathematical knowledge, arithmetic reasoning, paragraph comprehension, and word knowledge. There's going to be 5 other sections, and I'll list off a couple. Mechanical knowledge and, that's fine. Those other 5 sections, they're really not that important in comparison. When it comes to the first 5 sections I mentioned, that's going to be 80% of your grade right there. Those other 5 sections, that's only 20%. So that's making it like 3% of your grade per section. And you're not going to be expected to know that stuff, Why the heck would a 17-year-old know about mechanical knowledge unless he coincidentally had a passion for that and he pursued knowledge in that? He's not. So don't focus on wasting your time on studying subjects that are going to be such a low value for you. Focus on the first 5 sections, because that's going to get you the highest grade, and that'll definitely get you the highest score to be able to move forward with getting a good job. What motivates many young people to join the Army knowing they could be killed? It really just depends on what your perspective is and the reason you joined. The reason I joined, honestly, it had nothing to do with patriotism. When I first joined the Army, I did have that initial mindset of like, I could do better. This is a last resort. When I joined, it was just a stepping stone. I had no intentions of making it a career. I thought I was better than it. And I intended on finishing my college, starting my civilian career path, and getting out of the Army. It just so happened that I did love the military. I had an amazing experience with it. And although I finished my goals to where I could transition towards the civilian side for my career, I love the military more. And to boot that, it just so happened the Army pays more as well. So I ended up being in a circumstance to where I can do something I love. It gives me more pay, it gives me more benefits, and I'm just passionate about it, And that's not something that can be said about every type of job or career field you go towards, But as I said, I initially went in there with a mindset of, this is just a stepping stone, and something beautiful happened, and I made a career out of it. And just to let you know, I didn't start off active duty because, as I said, I thought it was just going to be a stepping stone. Why would I give my full commitment towards it and slow down my career track on the civilian side? I started reserves. I did that for the first 9 years of my career. I was a combat engineer, and it was just 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. It was 38 days a year. It really didn't take too much of my time. I was able to focus on my education. I got quite an ample amount of civilian career opportunities that I pursued, and it made me have a very impressive resume when it came to my work experience and my leadership. But as I said, the military made more sense for me. I loved it, and I wanted to pursue it, and that's actually why I became a recruiter, because when it came to the decision to make military a career, I wasn't just going to go into the career and just take whatever job. I had an amazing experience as a combat engineer, but I wanted to think about longevity. And combat engineer wasn't for me. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I wanted to find some job that's impactful and helps the soldiers or the students. And that was really a toss-up between retention NCO, recruiter, operations NCO. It really just was things that helped me be able to take care of the younger generation. And that's exactly what I'm able to do now with the recruiting position I'm in. Okay. Real quick. So someone asked what my rank is in my MOS. So I'm a staff sergeant. That's an E6, and my MOS, I'm now a 79 Romeo, which is a recruiter. However, the first 9 years of my career, I was a combat engineer, 12 Bravo. So someone's asking if I'm still active, and if not, how was it? So there's technically 3 categories you can fall under. There's reserves, there's active, and there's active guard reserves. Well, technically there's also National Guard and whatnot, but we're not going to talk about that. So reserves, it's just the 1 week in a month thing, the part-time Army. Active duty, that's full-time Army. You'll typically choose the job you want and you'll go straight into it. Active Guard Reserve, it's a reservist, but going full-time on that. So you're usually full-time staff. So the jobs that you're going to be looking for, or typically be getting when you're doing this, there's recruiter, which is what I am, and it goes beyond that. You could be a supply sergeant, you can be an operations NCO. These are jobs where you're working at the reservist unit, but you're doing the full-time work with it. So, you're doing the medical, you're doing the operations handling, you're doing the planning, the scheduling, you're doing all those things within that reservist unit, so that all those reservists who do their 1 week in a month, everything kind of needs to just be done and ready for them by the time they go do the drills. Otherwise, if it was just only reservists there and no full-time staff to get stuff to happen, then everything would just be chaotic and you wouldn't get anything done because you need more time to get the planning and stuff done. Um, but yeah, that's active guard reserve. Let's see. Dumbest thing I've done in the army. It's really hard to count, you know? um, there's a lot of stupid stuff that happens in the army. There's a lot of stupid stuff you're going to do. You have to remember, at the end of the day, especially when you're in a combat unit, boys will be boys, right? They're going to do dumb shit when they're bored. So you do make really dumb decisions sometimes, and things get a little out of control. But you know, it really just I can't really say I can't really think of the things that I've done that are really stupid. But a lot of shit's happened over the past 11 years. So I get this one a lot, but I don't typically answer it every single time because it's just so consistent and it's in my highlights as one of the things. But someone's saying, how can I join the military without being a citizen? So unfortunately, that's just not possible. You don't need, if you're trying to join the military and, you know, that's something you're looking towards, then you need to either get a green card, permanent residency, or you need to become a U.S. citizen. And you know, if you look it up, it says it can take 13 to 38 weeks. That's mostly wrong. It can be that quickly, but it could also take 10 years. If you're dead set on this, the best chance is to just simply apply for it, try to get it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then, you know, don't put all your eggs into one basket. And hopefully it turns out and you do get that citizenship or green card. Once you do get that green card bare minimum, you can join the army, and it can speed up the process for getting naturalization, and that is to include also your family members, so long as they have the process started. Someone asked what motivated me to join the army. I kind of went into that already, but I'll just briefly go over it again. It was simply the fact that the army paid for my education, and it also offered work experience towards the field I was gonna go in anyways. So actually, I didn't really cover that. So what I did and the reason I did it, so I became a combat engineer. That wasn't just my recruiter choosing my job and screwing me over. I actually had a pretty good recruiter, and he took care of me. He helped me sit down, come up with a game plan, right? When I joined the army, we came up with a game plan for a combat engineer. And the reason being is because I was looking towards going towards the military, the police force on the civilian side. So it really was a toss-up between going military police or combat engineer. The only reason I chose to go combat engineer was because my intentions were to try to go SWAT. And the fact that I deal with explosives on top of the fact that I'm a veteran, I just have that type of thing to throw onto my resume, it just looks much more exceptional when you're considering SWAT, you know? And that was just the direction I chose to go. And all in all, I loved being a combat engineer. It's just as I got older, you know, slowed down, it was just something I didn't see myself doing for 10 plus more years. Can you decide if you want to live in the barracks with a roommate or by yourself? So, no, you can't choose to have your own room. If you do have your own room, it's because you're probably a higher leadership level, right? But I can break down the BA8, basic housing allowance. So when you initially join the army, you know, you may not qualify for basic housing allowance right off the bat. What you need to be qualified for that is A, you need to be E5 or higher. You need to be married, or C, you need to have kids that are under your custody. Because you have dependents, you qualify for BH, and what that means is you're gonna get an allowance for your housing, and that housing allowance will vary based off of your zip code. You know, so California example, you're looking at like $3,400 a month for your housing allowance, and that's for E5, E6, right? Staff sergeant. And, you know, it's untaxable. So you're getting all this income just to pay for your housing and your utilities. And let's say, oh, I have actually a really good living situation to where I only need to pay $300 a month. Awesome. You're going to pocket the rest of the money. It's not where, well, since you don't need to use this money for this, we're taking it back. That's not how it works. It's your money and you can choose how you use it. Generally speaking, this is where you'll use it to actually pay for your housing and utilities. And this is what gives the awesome opportunity to just buy a house and just pay mortgage, because you can actually realistically afford it. And the zip codes, they're all in proportion of the state and the cost of living. So it's never going to be a circumstance to where you're like, oh, I want to live in this house. This is the average income. It costs $1,200. Well, awesome. We're giving you $700. Go after yourself. That's not how it works. Generally speaking, it will always be in proportion, and you will have a little more savings versus you're living paycheck to paycheck. How can I get promoted before training? Well, there's actually a number of ways. The long term, if you haven't graduated from high school and this is something you're looking towards the future, I would recommend going to JROTC. JROTC, if you do that, by the time you finish 2 to 3 years, you will be eligible for up to 2 free promotions. So you can enter the ranks as a PFC. However, there's other ways. Like you can be an Eagle Scout. That'll get you free promotions. You can You can do a referral. If you refer a friend and he joins before or at the same time as you referred him, so you get a free promotion right there, right? And then there's doing your college education. If you get 24 college credits, that's a free promotion. If you get 40 college credits, that's another free promotion. If you just outright have a bachelor's degree, you'll come in as a specialist, And each promotion, you're looking at a $200, $250 pay raise per month. That's how much it is generally. How difficult was the training? Well, for me, honestly, it was really easy. My background when I was in high school, I was very fit. I was 6'1", 139 pounds, 3% body fat. I was all about fitness back then, and I'm still about fitness, but it was a whole different level back then. I ran 12 miles a day. I was in football. I was in wrestling. I was in cross country. I loved fitness, and the reason I joined sports was simply just to get a great workout. So when I actually went into the military, I did my boot camp, my AIT. It was a joke for me because my workouts were typically harder. But, that could be said differently, It really just depends on your current physique and your overall mental toughness. If you're that one person who struggles to do one push-up, you can't even complete a mile, then you may struggle with this. It may be a pretty dramatic experience to you, but just keep in mind, the drill sergeants, some can be more firm than others, but keep in mind, their job is to get you into shape, and they will amp the difficulty progressively, incrementally. So they will push you to your limits, yes, but they're going to make sure that you're continuing to get in better shape, getting mentally tougher, and their goal is to help you at the end of the day. But yeah, like I said, it really varies from person to person. I've had people who can't handle it, and I've had people who think it's a joke, and when students, applicants, when they come to my future soldier training, the ones who find it a little easier, I usually pick on them more. I'll give them better workouts. I will put more time invested into them just because I want to make sure they're equally getting a great workout, and that's no problem because everyone has different starting points. All that matters is that you're there and you're trying to grow. I already went over option 40 contract. Just depending on whether it's available. Is it available at that time? What was your ASVAB score? And do you qualify for it? Someone asked, should I focus on Army engineers or Marine engineers? I'm going to do a construction business. If you have the opportunity to do either or, do either or. You know, it really just depends on what resonates with you most. But do keep this in mind. The Army is the only branch that allows you to choose your job. The only branch that comes close, a close second, is the Air Force. They allow you to choose the category. So, I want to go engineering. Air Force, okay, well, we can give you a engineering job, right? But Army, I want to go engineering. Okay, what exact job do you want? We can actually do that for you, and we're the only branch who can. The other branches, what happens is you go into an open-ended contract. So that means you will enlist, and then they will tell you what job you're going to do. You know, it can happen to where that job you wanted is available and it's undermanned, so they'll put you in it. But it can also happen that you're saying, I want to be an engineer, and they're like, awesome, you're going to be an electrician, and you just signed the contract. So, you know, it's not really your choice. So if you are keen on choosing the job, choosing the category that you want, so you can have good transition ability outside of the military, I would recommend Army 100%. But if Army isn't for you, maybe try the Air Force. Which branch is better for people who suck at math and is good at computer tech? So that's a question that doesn't really make too much sense. And the reason being is, generally speaking, to get computer technological jobs, IT, these jobs you're going to need to get a fairly high score. If you're incapable of getting a high score, that's where you're getting more towards the combat related jobs. Don't get me wrong, you can get support related jobs. It's just the bigger bulk of better job selection is through getting a higher SFAB score. So if you're not very good at math, I would just say continue to work at it, you know? Worst case scenario, join the Army, take whatever job they'll let you take, and then once you serve a certain amount of time, just reclass. The fact that the Army has already invested money into you, you've already graduated from boot camp AIT, you're no longer a liability, you're no longer a risk. You've already passed. So with that being said, they're willing to waive your line scores a little more and be a little more lenient because they've already invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into you, which can't be said about the applicant who's, 5 line scores off. You don't even know if he's going to be able to tough it out during boot camp, and then all that money that's been invested goes to waste because he wasn't able to handle boot camp. That's exactly why they don't just give the red carpet treatment to every person who walks into the door and says, I want to join the Army. Are you glad you joined the Army? Yeah, I could easily say I am. The Army has been an amazing experience. I'm already at 11 years, and that's keeping in mind that the Army wasn't always a great experience. I did have leadership who was there just to simply collect a check. I had leadership who was toxic, they were inexperienced, and instead of mentoring me and putting a positive mindset to have me grow and ask questions, they just try to intimidate, make you feel like a piece of crap for not knowing something, and then not even correcting or guiding you to learn the answer, So I've had tough moments in my career, and even with those tough moments considered, I'm 100% eternally grateful for the opportunity the military's given me, because I just have such a good circumstance, I'm in a job I love. I'm able to inspire and help applicants, students, kids, young soldiers build a career upon themselves, help guide them to make good decisions. I'm able to affect their life and their career outside of recruitment, because once they go to their unit, they become soldiers. I'm still there. I can still give them the guidance. I can still give them the advice, and financially, I'm fully covered. I'm able to fully provide for both myself and my wife. We have a house. We're not struggling in any way. And I'm just immersed around other individuals who are like-minded, They want to grow, they want to better themselves, and they're not complacent. And it's really nice to be in a positive environment like that, because, I know for a fact, had I not joined the Army, yeah, I could have potentially been successful still, but I do know it would have been a little harder to have the right mindset to try to continually grow, because, you know, back in high school, back in my days, I was just a nerdy little gamer who liked to watch anime and whatnot, you know? So I could have just as easily just been living at my parents' house doing nothing, you know? So I'm very appreciative of joining the Army and the lifestyle that it's provided for me, you know? And that's why I intend on doing bare minimum 20 years in the military. I need help with the ASVAB studying. So, as I stated before, when it comes to the ASVAB, focus on the first 5 sections: general science, mathematical knowledge, arithmetic reasoning, word knowledge, and paragraph comprehension. However, if you are struggling with it, keep in mind, on my highlights, I do have a study guide that helps. Beyond that, I also have a YouTube series. The YouTube series goes over the types of questions you will see, the types in the subjects that you will see. And it does step by step, problem by problem, goes over these questions to help you improve upon it. And then, you know, if it's not me, reach out to your local recruiter. Ask them to send you a pretest, you know. Obviously, a recruiter wants you to join as quickly as possible, right? But a recruiter is not just going to throw you away if you're not joining the next week. Yes, we care about you getting in as quickly as possible, but we also care about you. We want you to build a better life for yourself. So that's 1-2 years down the line, because that's how long it takes. That's how long it takes. A recruiter's not going to complain if you ask him if you ask him to send you a pretest, you know, maybe once a week or once a month, you know, because at least with that you can measure whether your studying habits are working. And if you're 2 years in and you're still unable to pass the test, buy a tutor, you know. No one wants to pay money to get tutored, but it works. And you got to think about it. This is your future. So if you have to invest a little money to start a career, then do it. Because what's the difference of college? The only difference is you can have guaranteed success with this on something you're potentially passionate about. What scared you the most in the military? Well, you got to keep in mind, when I joined, I was fresh out of high school. I joined at the age of 18. I had, generally no life experience. I was just becoming an adult. I hadn't done too much, and there were a lot of errors that could be made. Keeping that in mind, I also came into leadership that was more toxic versus constructive. So in the military, for a while, my biggest fear was simply making a mistake, to the extent to where I'm willing to hide the mistake to just make it not known, you know, because I'd rather be messed up and not know how to do something versus say I know how to do something and, do it wrong or something. It really came to me getting the next iteration of leadership that really were about developing and making sure you grow, that I really got over that mindset and I was able to, start to actually develop, and even at an explosive rate. So definitely, I would say the most fearful thing for me was simply making mistakes, being a fuck up, not amounting to what I wanted to be. Why shouldn't I join? Well, the military isn't for everyone. Just bottom line. Some people can handle it, some people can't. Some people need it, some people don't. But it's more important to kind of consider what's holding you back. What at home is keeping you there? Because you want to develop, you want to lead a successful life. Are you going to do it on your current track? Because if your goal is to, maybe get a part-time job, maybe do some college on the side, and, kind of just go with the flow. If that's your goal, 10 years can pass by. You're 35, you work at McDonald's. That's how easy it is. Time really does fly. And if you have goals to be successful, get out of your comfort zone. Because time flies, and if you don't have a set plan, then that's where everything can go haywire, and then One moment you're just enjoying time with your friends, and the next 10 years have passed and you're nowhere where you want to be. So now you need to start, you know? And keep in mind, plan A, B, and C, those can all fail. Come up with backup plans. Come up with plans that help you achieve those plans. Have stuff to fall back on. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if you do, I would hate to see that you're 40 years old and you hate your life because you wish you did more in it, you know? So to answer your question, why shouldn't I join? That's on you, you know? Some people, they have full ride scholarships. Some people, they're against war. Some people, you know, it just depends on your perspective. Planning on joining the Army, what should I expect? I would just say, don't take everything to heart. Take everything with a grain of salt, you know? Your experience in the military may be different from my experience. That's why you got me, who's naturally a pretty optimistic person, through all of my experiences, even though some have been bad, right? But then you can have the other soldier where he's had a generally good career, and then he just grows up and becomes that salty specialist because he has a very negative outlook on life, you know? Consider the positives just as much as you consider the negatives. If you do that and you look forward, there's always a brighter spot, you know? Just cruising through all the questions. So I can't join the Air Force because of medical stuff. What about the Army? There's actually a lot of reasons why you may or may not be able to join a branch. Just keep in mind, if you can't join a certain branch because X reason, try the other. You know, really look at the market, see if there's exceptions. You know, I know for a fact that for one instance, the Army, we don't accept tattoos that are on your face, your neck, or your fingers or hands, right? The Navy does all day, you know? I've seen tons of Navy recruiters, they have literally all their fingers fully tatted, you know? Every branch has different standards and expectations. And, you know, if one branch that you're aiming for fails, try the other. Who knows? Maybe you'll join. And on that note, keep in mind as well, just because one branch, let's even say Army, you go to one recruiter office, they tell you you can't join indefinitely. That doesn't mean that's absolute. Maybe that recruiter just didn't want to work you, you know? Try another office. You could have been denied with another recruiting office just simply because they didn't want to put in the work. There might be another recruiter who's willing to do that work, and they can get you in. Maybe it'll be a year from now, but it'll be you in, right? How do you physically prepare yourself for the military? Do they train you and then they send you? Yeah, as I said, I do future soldier training. I'm the future soldier training leader. I actually did it every Wednesday, 3 to 5 p.m. It's over by my office, over by the Winco, if you're familiar. And, you know, it was 2 to 3 hours of working out. And I'm really going to push you, you know. If I know you're capable of more, I'm going to push you to do more. If I know that you're not in the best shape, then I'm going to push you to get in better shape. And I can guarantee you, if you show up consistently, you will be in much better shape by the end of it, you know, and you will be able to handle the military, right? But yeah, we do training. And it was actually at the start of this year, I did have plans. I was going to do another iteration of training. It was going to be called soldier training. And it was just going to be training where I actually teach you soldier tasks, you know, land navigation, maybe teach you about weapons, teach you tactical movement, drill and ceremony. And I was really looking forward to these things, but At the moment, COVID is getting a little too bad to where it's becoming too much of a risk. But once it dies down a bit and COVID is hopefully gone, I fully intend on continuing the entire training again. And if that's something you're wanting to join, swing on by. Even if you have no intention on joining the military, come on by. Anyone's invited, and it's just better to have a better workout, right? With more people. Have you ever made mistakes in your career, and what do you think about it? Yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, and that's been as a leader as well. No one is perfect, and that shouldn't dissuade you or scare you off from being a leader. You're expected to make these mistakes so that you can learn from them and grow from them. And sometimes the mistakes are more significant than others. You could either let it eat you up and just submit, or you can learn from it, grow, and don't make that mistake again. But that's what being a leader is. You find the solution even if there isn't one. So yeah, I've definitely made many mistakes, and I've developed my leadership over the years. It was only honestly these past 6 years that really developed it the most. The first 5, it was more so just me being a soldier and trying not to mess up. I wasn't the golden child, the golden goose. I wasn't a natural on everything. But I learned, everyone has a different learning curve. You can't always be the best in everything, but you should always try to be, and through being a leader, through getting more confidence, getting more empowerment, I was able to continually grow and continually to move. So yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes, and when you join the Army, there's a high probability you will too. All you have to remember though, be positive, think about the future, and how can you prevent yourself from making that mistake next time? Sometimes you just need to get the repetitions in. Sometimes you need to study. Sometimes you need an actual mentor to give you the guidance. It's fine if you need your hand held initially. Just make sure you master it after. And sometimes the best way to learn is by actually teaching it or doing it, which, like I said, that's where naturally failure can happen, but you will improve on it. Okay guys, well, it's been a pleasure. That was me answering all the questions that I really thought stood out and could actually add something. I hope you guys appreciated it and you enjoyed it. For those of you who didn't participate and didn't ask me questions, I'm going to send it out again. If you have questions, it can be about life on the civilian side. It can be about the military. It can be about the Army enlistment process, the military enlistment process. It can be about leadership, If you have questions and you're hoping for some advice, or you just want to hear me talk, feel free to ask me, okay? Have a good one, guys.